Do you have questions concerning planning a Disney trip? Ask them live on the show or submit them on our website at patmdisneytravel.wixsite.com/planning. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matt with the DPI podcast. Braden just ran up here and says, season premiere of Bad Batch. We get 3 episodes for the season premiere. So that's pretty cool. February 21st is our call out. What do you have? I've got Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel over on the other screen. He's got one of his enchanted cards up on his box. It's like just showing off his Namari. We've got a good show tonight. We've got news. We're gonna do a top 3, and then we haven't done a deep dive in a while, so we're gonna do a DPI deep dive tonight, and have a lot of fun with it. Like I said, Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel will be on, and we'll kind of go from there. Here we go. Hi, I'm Matt. Welcome to Disney Planning Insights. Through creative content and live shows, we explain the hidden details of the Disney experience so that our clients can execute memorable adventures. Together with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel, we have helped hundreds of clients plan, book, and prepare for magical Disney vacations. Let our experience help you avoid common planning mistakes and maximize the enjoyment on your next Disney trip. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matt with the DPI podcast. We've got a good show tonight. I've got Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel over on the other screen. We're going to get on. We're going to do some news tonight. Big news as far as World is going. We've got a lot going on over there. Got some cool things that were released today, and we've got to talk about the financial call, the earnings call from last week, and some of the things that came out from that. So let's get Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel on and see what we've got going on. Peter, how you doing tonight?
Oh yeah, I'm doing so good. Okay.
I was making fun of him a little bit as he was getting ready there because he had one of his enchanted cards just sitting on top of his deck boxes to the left of him on the screen, or to the right of him as you're looking at him. But yeah, he decided he was just going to spread them all out. So he's got his Namari, he's got a Tinkerbell Giant Fairy, and then his Musketeer Mickey from Gen Con on display. So if you
that was on accident, by the way. I wasn't intending to do that, but if Matt's gonna bring attention to it, then I'll bring attention to it even more.
There you go. They're all on sale. All he wants is a Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard mat for it. All 3 of them.
I already bought it. I did what we were talking about. I went back the next morning and I realized that person was accepting offers. And I put in what I felt was a fair offer, and they accepted it. So I got the 2 mats coming, and then I will turn around and sell one of those to make it to where I just paid a good friend to pick me up one from being on the road. Because I did take your advice. I went to Best Buy, and I had them search the entire state, and no, there's not a single Best Buy in the state of Indiana that still has them.
Yeah, it's a nice feature. So if you are looking for Lorcana cards in your state, go to a local Best Buy, and they are able to look at inventories if you have somebody nice at that front register. They are able to look at inventories throughout the state for you, and I'm sure they probably could go outside the state too. But the one in Indiana kept it within the state, and it was really nice because he gave me 3 or 4 different options that had packs available and that kind of stuff, deck boxes, sleeves, that kind of stuff. So so we've got a big news week, so I'm going to go ahead and get us into our 15 minutes and start talking some news.
And what you get?
Okay, and Unicorse jumps on. Interesting. It's a cool start to the show. But why you should care is Disney had its earnings call last week, and there were a couple of big things that came from the earnings call. One slightly after the earnings call. But the first thing is that Moana 2's trailer was released. Very quick, like 5-second trailer, not a whole lot, just kind of like a push-in shot to Moana picking up a shell on a seashore and blowing into it. What we came to find out was that they were producing a series for Disney Plus and decided they had so much good content for the series that they were going to make a feature film out of it. And the feature film is going to come out on Thanksgiving weekend this year. So it is going to go up against Wicked on Thanksgiving weekend, which is going to be crazy because Wicked looked awesome in the Super Bowl trailer.
Or you just make it a double feature.
a Wicana double feature like the Barbenheimer.
Clearly Moked.
Moked.
Is the correct way to do that.
So that was one of the first things that came out. Another thing that came out was kind of the plan for the use of the $60 billion that they're investing into Disney Disney parks over the next 10 years. They came out and said that about 70% of it is going to be used for park expansion, for capacity expansion. And that goes back a little bit to what we talked about last week, that there are rumblings again about a fifth gate.
I told you.
And we haven't been too far off on a lot of things that we've been talking about here recently, because we talked about 1900 Park Fair not being taken off of the restaurant list, and all of a sudden last week, what did we get? We got the announcement that 1900 Park Fair is reopening.
I have another thing that we were right about later in the show when you bring this up. One of the other big pieces of information that dropped today. I had already said what we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Again, and Iger basically got asked about a fifth gate, and he kind of like sidestepped the question.
Yeah.
Saying like, we're not ready to discuss that.
Yeah, well, they're not ready to discuss it because it's in the works.
They don't have the concrete plans about what's going to be in it. But
yeah,
that Uber driver that I spoke to, one of the few that spoke, communicatable English, it was quite nice, was talking all about how that whole area over there there's just a lot of construction trucks for it to just be like waiting to announce a hotel.
Yeah, and that's the thing, there's a couple of really good sites on Twitter. BioReconstruct is a really good one. He's a guy that flies a helicopter around the Orlando area and does a lot of the great overhead shots that you're getting on Epic Universe right now. He did it with the Epcot expansion, that kind of stuff. And for him not to be taking any photos of this kind of tells me that it's not on anybody's radar right now. But something's obviously happening. Something's going on, because they're coming out with all of this stuff and saying, hey, all of these things are making a lot of sense. So,
well, and it also makes sense why they backpedaled. You and I have talked about how many blue skies are not coming to fruition. Mm-hmm. They backed down Cherry Tree Lane. They backed down a lot of other future. They refused. They gave us a year and a half ago the idea that Magic Kingdom was going to expand back behind Big Thunder Mountain, and you and I were expecting to go to D23 to hear huge advancements on that, and to back down that from Blue Sky and not have it fleshed out doesn't make any sense. It still does make sense. I do expect the Blue Sky that we did hear about with Animal Kingdom, that just makes sense. Like ripping out Dino Land and creating South America simply makes sense, because then that park is South America, Asia, Africa, Pandora. So you have a fantastical world, but then you have 3 very celebrate the globe wildlife areas, because Dino Land straight up does not make sense in that park. But there's a reason why they're backing down the blue skies in other places. It just makes sense. And it kind of aligns to what Epic Universe is doing. There had been rumors of back there behind the Big Thunder Mountain having like a Villains Land. What is Epic Universe doing? They are creating a Villains area. It makes sense for Disney to do a Marvel Villains Star Wars park.
Yeah. They've got to do something, and we keep talking about it. There's got to be an answer at some point, and it sounds like
Marvel Pixar villains. That's what I'm going with there, because there's not a lot of Pixar in the parks.
There isn't. They're trying to. I feel like that's where Epcot's going to go eventually. But again, we'll see what happens there. So the information came from the CFO, Hugh Johnston. About 70% of the investment is earmarked for increasing capacity. And it makes a lot of sense. You've got the 2 frozen lands getting ready to open up. They just opened the Zootopia. You were talking about Fantasy Springs at Tokyo Sea Disney that's getting ready to open. There's still another unnamed land in Paris that's going to be built. So they're adding to these parks all around the world. Disneyland, the Disney Forward project, is kind of moving through the Anaheim planning process. So it's only time before we hear something about Orlando, and I think that time's going to be at D23. With that being said, are we taking a Princesses and the Mouse family trip out to D23?
Wait, when is it?
First week of August.
First week of August?
Yeah, it's like, well, there's a baseball game, and then there's the D23 day at Disneyland where they're closing Disneyland, and then there's actual D23. It's 4 days again this year. Of course,
right? But I believe it's, now that I am the head girls golf coach, I believe the dates were like, aren't they like the 8th?
Yeah, like the 4th through the 8th, or the 4th through something like that.
Yeah, which is Sunday through Wednesday, starting the brand new school year on the HSE calendar.
Yeah.
As I'm also now the head girls golf coach.
Probably not the greatest of moves.
Probably not in the cards.
All right. Moana 2, we talked about that. Oh, here we go. Disney World seeking puppeteers for the upcoming Little Mermaid musical adventure. Is this what you were talking about? That we were right on that one as well?
No.
Oh, so you were right on this one, talking about it becoming more like the Finding Nemo / Finding Dory show that is in Animal Kingdom right now. The Little Mermaid, a musical adventure, is what it's kind of being tabbed as right now. So it really sounds like we're going to get another one of those puppet-style shows over at Hollywood Studios.
Which is wonderful, because they don't really have one of those at Hollywood Studios right now. And it kind of fills in, you've got the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular, this big thing. You've got the Muppets, which is just a sit there and watch a video. You've got the Frozen, which is more of a comedy show. You have the Belle, which is more, that's a musical, but it's live action. It's not. So it would be nice to see some imagery and some cartoonification of characters and, stuff like that. It looks like right on there. Do you want me to unveil mine?
Yeah, go for it.
So, officially announced earlier today is Bayou Adventure will open in Magic Kingdom during the summer, which we had talked about a month ago. I said, hey, I noticed that the signs no longer say late 2024, they just say 2024, which cues to a summer.
Yeah.
Because late would imply, hey, we'll hopefully have it by October.
Yeah, fall, winter.
Summer is just opening in 2024. And sure enough, today they announced they haven't given the date, but they did hone it in and say it will be opening summer of 2024, that the project timeline is well pushed up, that the crews are moving the animatronics. We had our first look at
the Tiana.
At the Tiana animatronic, which looked fantastic. It was her in kind of a pastel green business suit. So very, very excited. As I have said, I love Splash Mountain, and there are the diehards out there. I mean, my kids included, but the fact of the matter is they wouldn't have known who Brer Rabbit was unless they rode Splash Mountain a bunch, and I described that it was a cartoon in an old Disney movie that they kind of visit in that land as part of like the educational lessons that are received in that movie. Because, you know, that's what Disney movies used to be. They used to be like Full House, right? Full House.
Yeah.
Stuff happens, and then the music plays, and that's when you know life lessons are coming.
All right. So Walt Disney World, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, summer of 2024. Disneyland later this year. So
see, I still expect them fall, but
yeah,
I had noticed when I was there in December that the placards around the ride had changed.
Let's talk a little bit about 1900 Park Fair. 1900 Park Fair returns to Walt Disney World in April. It's going to be April 25th is going to be the first reservation. So means reservations are going to or April 10th first reservation. And did it say when it's going to open up? I thought it said when it's going to open up, but I don't see it. Oh, March 5th. Reservations are going to open up. So March 5th reservations, April 10th opening. Whole new character lineup. So this used to be like a split character lineup, whether you're going for breakfast or lunch and then dinner.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like Mary Poppins plus Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, it was Mary Poppins, Winnie the Pooh, Mad Hatter.
That's right. There was Alice there too.
Yeah, Cinderella and Prince Charming. So now they're going to have kind of a consistent character group across all of the meals, and it is going to be Tiana in that green suit for Bayou Adventure. It is going to be Prince Ali, Aladdin. It is going to be Cinderella, and it's going to be Mirabelle for all meals at 1900 Park Fair now. That's a
good one. That's a good lineup.
It says it's going to be a newly inspired meal selection. This used to be like a buffet plus type thing to where you could order entrees, but there was a buffet, and yeah, there's going to be a lot going on. So, and they did say this is going to be a 1 credit meal. So yeah. So that works out pretty well.
Yeah, unfortunately, it opens like 4 days after I leave.
But it'll be open when we go down in June, so.
Oh, good. La-di-da.
Hey. How many things have you gotten to see, like, the weekend it opened, so.
That's true.
Give me something.
Fine. Go to 1900 Park Fair. I don't even care.
So, Enchanting Buffet will be served for breakfast and dinner, featuring some returning guest favorites. That includes the strawberry soup, along with some new menu offerings dreamed up by our talented chefs to pay tribute to some of the characters and stories you'll encounter throughout the restaurant. So there you go.
I think that Prince Ali Aladdin's going to be really neat.
Yeah. Some new look characters and some new characters altogether. I mean, so not many places to meet Mirabelle right now. You're going to get a chance to meet Mirabelle. Prince Ali is going to be good. Is it going to be a different signature Prince Ali? Is it going to be signed Prince Ali, or is it going to be Aladdin still? You know, that's going to be a neat thing to see. So, Yeah, lots of cool things going on. Let's go back over to some of the new stuff that's coming to the world. New buses are showing up at Walt Disney World, and really, it just looks like it's increased ECV capacity. So most of the buses can only handle 2 or 3 scooters. The new buses look like they can handle 5. So, and it looks like that they can take the seats up in the front at the end of the day and increase standing capacity as well. So, something to look at and watch for as you're going through. Just some new look buses. The tie downs look a little bit different. Everything else looks relatively the same. It just, the way that they tie the things down look a little bit different. Talked about that last week. What'd you think of Hugh Jackman? Did you see Hugh Jackman's response to the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer?
I feel like I kind of grazed across it, but didn't even look really. So not enough to talk about.
Yeah, he just redid it. Wolverine and ass. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was pretty funny. Pretty funny response from Hugh Jackman. But him and Ryan Reynolds have a great back and forth anyway. Anything else that you're seeing at the parks, Peter?
That wasn't enough?
No, there actually was something else. So, what was I watching? I was watching something. I don't think it was Super Bowl. And I noticed in one of the Disney commercials that they've extended the date of the Stay Longer and Save promotion. And I text you about it.
Into early October.
Yeah, it's now going into early October. There are deals into October now at Walt Disney World. That's just, it's insane to think about it.
That's about a month. It's like not even a month early. I would expect fall break deals typically broke in like early to mid-March. Like kind of right as spring break traffic would begin, fall break deals would begin just to keep the hype kind of going.
Yeah. But still, it seems early to have that much going on. And it's like, from all fronts, I wish you could stack deals, because it's like, there's Disney Visa card deals, there's Disney Plus deals, there's DVC deals, there's all kinds of deals. And just the Stay Longer and Save deal, just a lot going on. So, no. Definitely a good time to go. Call that guy over there. Oh, no, over there. That guy. He's right. Yeah, him. There. Yep. No, not those. Don't call those. Unless you want to give him a Honey Wizard playmat.
I already told you I got him.
I know. I'm just going to keep, pimping your cards out for Honey
Wizard. No, I need a Honey Wizard foil.
All right. Well, I guess that means it's top 3 time, doesn't it?
Sure.
Business trip.
Did the people move around?
It does tingle a little bit.
And get it all figured out of where it all goes.
He talked through the whole intro.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know we were introing.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Matt with the DPI podcast. Over on the other side is Peter in his State of Flux office / recording room.
So they didn't hear anything I said?
No, not really. I heard it all, but I've heard it like 3 times. So.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was saying it. Whatever. I'm out.
All right, if you've been here before, you know what we're going to do. We're going to draw a chip from this bag here. We've got a category that we are going to pick our top 3 or our bottom 3. And Peter's going to get on the screen, and we're gonna do it together. If you haven't been here before, thanks for joining us tonight. Hit that like and subscribe button. We have a lot of fun. This is one of our longest running segments. This is season 3-4 now. And this is lucky number 13. 13.
Taylor Swift style.
Right there. Perfect. Number 13 is... Okay. We've ridden all the rides. We know what they look like. It is time for our top 3 favorite queue lines.
I feel like we've done this before.
We have done ride music. We've done ride experience. We have not done queue lines.
Check the tape.
Thinking about taking a trip to Disneyland, Disney World, maybe a Disney cruise, or one of the other amazing Disney destinations? Contact me at Princess of the Mouse, and I'd love to work with you on your itinerary to the most magical places in the world.
You can contact Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel on Facebook at PATM Disney Travel. All right. Favorite queue lines.
I'm still going through them all. I need more time.
I know. 30 seconds is not a lot of time.
Well, especially like this, because you have to like visualize the walk through every queue line. Because I don't want to like leave any out where I'm like, oh, that's actually an awesome queue line.
Yeah. And this takes some time too, because if you fast pass everything or lightning lane or whatever the kids are doing these days, you miss a lot of the cool effects in some of these queue lines. Are you ready?
I mean, hypothetically, I've got 4 written down, but like I said, I'm literally walking through, in my mind, I am walking through every queue line of, like, every ride at Disney World right now.
Okay. I'll go with one, and I'll start it off, because I think you can go with either one of these rides in Pandora. But I'm going to go with Navi River Journey to start at number 3.
What? You chose the wrong one, sir.
They're both really good. Flight of Passage is potentially a number 1.
It was the first one I wrote down on my list.
Well, you can use it as your number 1. You got plenty of time.
No,
but I'm going to go with Navi River Journey, just because of that entrance tent or ceremonial structure or whatever it is. It is unbelievable. And you kind of wind through it. It's like a woven wicker structure, just like you would see in the movie. And yeah, it's just really, really cool. Open air, but under shade, and you still kind of walk past some of the old RDA buildings, and because they've got them disguised as bathrooms, and yeah, just a really good queue. And I think a lot of the queues that we're going to talk about are going to be with newer rides, because that's where they've really enhanced the experience. As the ride might be shorter, but the queue is fantastic. So, my number 3 is Navi River Journey. Peter, what's your number 3?
Are you sure we haven't done this segment before? I
Yes.
feel like we've done it before. All right. Oh my God, I can't believe you went with that one. Okay, my number 3. My number 3 favorite queue is going to be Frozen Ever After at Epcot.
Okay.
That is, for those of you that do not know this ride, first of all, as you walk in, Norway is just an absolutely beautiful pavilion. One of, like, if we did a top 3 pavilions, this would definitely
It's on
be
there.
talked about in my top 3. Now, granted, there's only 11, so five would get the shaft.
Yeah. It's like
but-
the NHL playoffs.
Yeah, put that down in slot 13. Top three. Yeah, at Epcot. Yeah, nobody's picking America. Okay, so anyway, Frozen Ever After, like the whole thing is kind of picturesque because you kind of just like fall into this old Scandinavian architecture. It's kind of like you just sort of like feel mythology kind of hit you in the face as you kind of walk past that front building that many people don't even go in, that little Norse chapel where it talks all about the different Greek, all the different Norse gods. And it's so cool. And especially because of the Norse gods and the tie into Marvel, it's so, belonging in Walt Disney World now that they own Marvel. But the ride itself is awesome because you walk in and there's proclamations about how Elsa has declared today the summer winter festival. And as you continue to walk further in, you find yourselves on the streets of Arendelle, which is just so cool because inside of a building, they managed to do that visual scaling trick to where you feel like you're walking through the streets of Arendelle. And then right before you go and get onto the ride line or onto the ride itself, you get to go through the Oaken sauna with this little magic window that's interactive. It's just very funny because the steam will kind of clear and the family will be sitting there and Oaken will pop up from time to time talking about his big summer blowouts and stuff. And so, the ride line itself is kind of annoying because you just loop, and they sneak such a long ride line into a very compact space. So it's a bit much, especially when some scooters are doing some maneuvers in there. But the ride line itself is so immaculately decorated and is such a fun experience. So my number 3 is going to be Frozen Ever After. Matt, what's your number 2?
Number 2. I feel like I could go over and steal the other one at Pandora in number 2. But I'm going to go to Hollywood Studios, and I'm going to go with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Mickey and Minnie's is another ride that kind of reoccupied a building, just like Frozen Ever After reoccupied. Oh, God. What was the ride there?
Sorry, I was looking at my list and trying to decide which ones I was going to do. What? Frozen Ever After was Maelstrom.
Maelstrom, yeah. Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway took over the building of the Great Movie Ride. And a lot of the queue was reutilized, but one cool aspect that you get in this queue is the Mickey short that you actually watch and then participate in, and that's what kind of starts the ride experience for this ride. So as you're wandering through the Chinese theater, you're seeing all these posters of Mickey Mouse shorts and stuff, and then you go into this theater room and you have the Mickey short that kind of starts the show. And at one point you actually go into the short, and that's where the ride takes place. Really cool effect. And then as you're coming back out of the ride, be sure to turn around as you come out, because you actually come back out of what looks like a movie screen that brings you back out into the real world. So really, really cool effect on both sides. Great ride as well. So my number 2 is going to be Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Peter, and before you go to your number 2, I just want to say thank you, Shannon, for validating my number 3, because she put it as her number 1. Yeah.
Oh, we're both high. The other Pandora ride has
a
better queue.
It's an amazing queue. So, where are you going with your number 2?
Well, I'm going to make sure that all the parks get love, so that way when you go with your number 1, I'm faced with a terrible decision, because I was expecting you to say 2 of the ones on here. You came dangerously adjacently close to 1, and then you and Shannon made a terrible decision. But that's beside the point here tonight. But that's why they're top 3s, because this is actually one of the few top 3s where we've had quite a descent in our opinions. because normally we're like, oh yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned that one.
You're like, no.
As soon as you said Mickey and Minnie, I was like, he is smoking. Oh, it is kind of cool because you go into the cartoon, and then I started to think like why you might. Yeah, no, that is really fun, and it is cool how you. And then when you walk in, the catchy music, you just like you can't help but go through the cartoon and then like bop your way up and down all the way to the station. Like you can't stop. So all the parks are going to get some love by the time we get through our number 2, so that we can really kind of choose what we want for our number 1. It would not be a very good segment.
Yep. You're freezing on us, Peter. Come on.
What?
Better. Go for it. You were freezing.
Okay. So what I was saying before I froze, I already talked about Frozen, though. That would have been a wonderful moment for this to happen. So I don't think this would be a very good segment if we did not talk about the Little Mermaid line in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, that line is remarkable. So you start kind of on the rocky shoal area of the kingdom, and you weave your way through the rocky shoals, and you meet Scuttle and you meet some other characters as you work your way through there. And then it's wonderful because they used really natural looking features to create shade on a hot day when that line does get a little bit longer before you get into the show building. It's very cool because there's kind of water splashing around in various places and a lot of naturally shading out of these rock formations. But ultimately, you go in and Scuttle has kind of that same Mr. Potato Head AI thing going on, because he kind of throws out different stuff, but it definitely, you can definitely tell there's some type of a camera work there, because they will specifically say things like, as people, if there's no line, people will just like scoop under those cues, and Scuttle will mention it. Like, where are you going? You want to leave it in such a hurry? Like type of stuff like that. And then you really come around the corner, and now you sort of find yourselves in some like palatial column work, and you start to gain the grandeur of Eric's castle, and it sort of transports you into getting into that clamshell. And I'm always blown away, because this is one of the rides that, do you get a fast pass or a lightning lane for this thing? I don't think so. I think you just wait till the ride line says 15-minute wait, and just make it how you wait for your Seven Dwarfs return time to come up. So Voyage of the Little Mermaid, over at Magic Kingdom, a fantastic ride line, and really, really adds to the whole ride experience.
Yes. All right. Going to our number 1s. I think people lost a lot of respect for me with Navi River Journey, so I will redeem myself with my number 1.
Wait, you have other people saying?
With my number 1, I'm going to stay in Hollywood Studios, and I'm going to go with Rise of the Resistance.
All right, you got one that I wrote down. Good job.
Okay.
Now I have to pick between 2.
So Rise of the Resistance, if you really want to get down to brass tacks, it is a ride and 2 shows as part of a queue, with 2 show buildings and 3 set pieces, basically. It's crazy. So first, in the queue line, you're going through like the lockers and the stuff of a Jedi base. And you get to the first show set, and it's BB-8 and it's Rey talking about your mission and what you need to do. You get on your transporter and you get captured, and you go into set building number 2, which is a Star Destroyer, and the wow factor of coming out of your shuttle into that building is unbelievable. And then you get put in the halls and then in the sort and go into the next set piece, which is kind of your interrogation room where you get rescued and then you actually go on the ride. It is absolutely amazing. So it starts outside, and you know, even a long wait on this ride, there's so much to look at as you're going through. And with it still being individual lightning lane and that stuff, it's not bad when you get an individual lightning lane. But there's enough to look at as you're going through. Easter eggs, things that are going to take you back to some of the earlier Star Wars series. You know, just a great queue line. And then the actual ride itself is phenomenal. Trackless ride. Unbelievable use of perspective. Unbelievable use of the motion technology. And then you end crash landing where you're supposed to go. So it all works out in the end. But it doesn't look like it's going to work out in the end. It never feels like it's going to work out in the end. So, no, great ride, great queue. So number one for me, Rise of the Resistance. And if you've got a better number one than me or Peter, put it in the comments. Let us know. Make fun of my number three, whatever. I don't care.
I want to know what's happening in the chat. Are you?
It's engagement, no matter what it is.
Apparently, the crowd is with me, is what we have realized.
But if you do have a topic for another top three for us, go over to the website, patm.disneytravel.wixsite.com/planning, and let us know in the text box there. Peter, where can people find you?
Do you want me to do my number one?
We will. We're getting to it. I'm warming up to it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, find me over on the Wix site. Obviously, you can fill out a vacation request form, or just find me over on Facebook, Princess of the Mouse, Certified Disney Travel Agent, and then just shoot me a messenger, and we'll start talking, and we'll get something lined up and get talking about the vacation. I'm going to remove all details. So just recently, I had a person that I have some dealings with reach out to me and say, hey, we've got this trip going. I know that you do it, but my sister also has a friend. She already got a quote from them, but I'm trying to go with you. Here's the information that person sent. Can you weigh into this at all? And there were like 5 things on the information that was sent to them that was wrong. So I immediately went back over and I was like, I'm not going to bash or kick down any other person, but I'm telling you that this is clearly a travel agent that sells Disney without truly understanding it, because a lot of the stuff in here is just straight out of promotional content and not recent promotional content. So there were just some errors. Like, for example, you and I can speak on this. So $16 a day for Genie Plus per person.
Yeah.
Not for almost a year now, right?
Yeah. It's a sliding scale, definitely.
Right. Well, it's a sliding scale, and I haven't seen it as low as 16 in a long time.
Yeah.
To make a point of this to this person, I snapshotted the app, and it was it was last Tuesday, which is not a busy day, and it was $24 per person.
Yeah.
I was like, this is the slow time of year. You're going during a busy time of year. So just little stuff like that. So I would love to talk to you. I'm going to get you the information, and if I don't know the information, which is few and far between, I'm going to find the information because I'm going to make sure that you get the appropriate information so that you're ready to roll on your trip.
Yeah.
Anyway, so with my number one, I can go to my number one now?
You can go to your number one now.
Okay. So there are so many. This is such a difficult, because I'm thinking like, so obviously my number one is Soarin', because who doesn't want to just go stand in a bunch of plate steel? No, it's obviously not Soarin'. But I'm thinking around all these rides, and this has been a great segment because I've really, like, in my mind, walked through a lot of these queues to really see what they look like. You know, we're not going to get to some great ones. Like Seas with Nemo and Friends at Epcot might be the greatest queue for the crappiest ride. You know, I already did Voyage of the Little Mermaid, which is kind of in the same vein. Like, the ride ain't much to talk about, but dang, they dressed it up with a nice queue. We've talked on this show about how Peter Pan's queue is so immersive in the ride experience that you almost like Lightning Lane just destroys the total ride experience. I think we brought up Peter Pan in our top 3 about experiences that are sold to us. So just tip of the cap to, like, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted, all of these things are so immersive. That's what I always tell my clients. Don't go expecting a Cedar Point or a Six Flags or even a Universal to some degree, because those are just trying to sell you thrills. Disney's trying to sell you experiences, and the ride queues just go to show that. Like Slinky Dog Dash. When you go on to Slinky Dog Dash, like, there are pieces of track just laying on the ground because Andy didn't use all the pieces of the kit. Each of those pieces of track are like several $100,000 true ride track pieces. Like, what? You know, or Toy Story Mania, the level of intricacy in like the child-sized stuff is just remarkable. But I am going to go with another new ride for my number one. I am going to go with Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. I have mentioned before, I just find this to be such an amazing, immersive, enjoyable queue. Even if you go in and you find yourself in the very, very first area, the AI that's kind of talking to you, it's like Nova's AI that is speaking to you and talking about the things that it's learned about us Terrans. And then you move your way up and you get immersed into Nova culture, which is just so cool, seeing their different uniforms and seeing a map of the world lit up with the different arts versus education versus infrastructural things. You get to see all their different levels of ships displayed. There's lots and lots of immersive things. And then you get into the first showroom after being sorted, where you get somebody who looks incredibly like Terry Crews and Glenn Close, but they're not because it's Nova Prime and Centurion Merrick. So, like, it's clearly not Glenn Close and Terry Crews.
It's clearly not the Office linebacker.
Right, not at all. But you go and there's a great little video there with some jokes and kind of a culmination, and then you move into a very, very amazing experience room. A lot of people, I mean, I'm guilty. We ruin it because we know where the next door is, and so we totally do. Like, I wish everybody could walk into that room the way that I walked into it the first time, because when I walked into that room the first time and had no idea, I stood there directly under the portal. I took in the amazingness that was the show. I watched the entire thing, and then I went, oh crap, there's a door over there.
Yeah.
Like, it's such an amazing experience. It's so fun. Use of visual effects. Again, jokes from the Guardians. One of my favorite little Easter eggs is Rocket jumps up and goes, hey, I reprogrammed the shuttles. And he holds up a little iPad, and it says success probability 0.02%. You're just like, yeah, that's about right. Yeah. So Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind is a fantastic queue, just a wonderful experience. And I went with that. I had 2 things left listed on my sheet. I had Flight of Passage and Guardians of the Galaxy. So I am allowing that we are going to pretend that you said Flight of Passage and talked all about walking up into the floating mountains and into the RDA research and into the whole Navi Research Institute for your number 3, which really immerses you in the Avatar movie as opposed to walking through the straw hut while it's outside and 98 degrees and there's sweat dripping in places you didn't know you had. He meant to talk about the floating mountains and the air-conditioned cavern and the RDA buildings and the Navi Research Institute. That's what he meant to talk about. So Flight of Passage was talked about in extent because that is a wonderful queue.
Can we talk about how Haunted Mansion has really revolutionized the queue experience?
Oh, because, yeah, with like how old it was, but it still stands the test of time for...
Well, and like that, the show within a queue type experience. When you think about all of the newer rides that are coming out, you kind of get stopped in the middle for the scan in Flight of Passage, or the Hondo talking to you at Millennium Falcon. You know, there's a lot of things that they've incorporated into these queues now that are time sucks, 5 minutes here, 2 minutes there, that kind of stuff, but it doesn't make it feel like it's that 50-minute queue anymore. It's a 30-minute queue to your first showroom, and then you've got a 20-minute queue after that.
Yeah, even though it doesn't feel like a 20-minute queue because you're constantly, like, right at the point where you're like, I'm annoyed that I'm still standing here, the door opens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's been something that, Haunted Mansion with the stretching room kind of started that. Is you go through that whole outdoor queue, you get herded into the stretching room, and then it kind of breaks up what can be a pretty miserable queue if it was just straight through. So
yeah, that graveyard's kind of fun. Walking through there's some like water spitting things and
but that's stuff that they've added since. I mean,
it's a good queue for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the stretching room, you're absolutely right. I really like the Disneyland version of Haunted Mansion. And Matt, battery died or something maybe.
Yeah.
I really like the Disneyland version because some of the early ride rooms is part of the queue that you walk through. So it's very enjoyable, very cool to experience that for sure. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the D3R3, the Disney Deep Dive into rides, restaurants, and resorts. Matt's gone. I don't know. I'm just pretending to host the show now.
Yeah, I have no clue what's going on. It's like my camera, like, completely died.
Oh, it's on.
I see it.
Oh, good.
I have no clue what happened. That was weird. All right. Much better. All right. You can see me again. Okay, yeah. So we are going to jump into a deep dive. But before we do that, thank you guys all for watching tonight's top 3.
Wait, what was the rest of Shannon's? Because I got to give her credit for her other 2.
Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, Pirates of the Caribbean, Navi River. Pirates is a good one.
That's a thumbs up for you, Shannon, that just popped up on my screen. That's a thumbs up for your Pirates of the Caribbean. That was like really, really pushing me to like, oh, but I want to talk about Little Mermaid instead.
All right. Well, thank you guys all for watching this week's top 3 episode. We'll catch you next time. What's going on, everybody? It is time for the DPI Deep Dive. We are going to pick a very specific thing at Walt Disney World, whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a resort, whether it be a ride, and we are going to kind of give you all the details about that. I've got Peter with Princesses and the Mouse Disney Travel, and it is time to deep dive. Shannon said, "Hey, we like. Don't hate on River Journey."
No, it's a perfectly good ride. The queue sucks. It's hot. Yes, the structure of it is awesome, but it's hot.
All right, it is Disney Deep Dive time. Peter's frozen on the other screen, just like his number 3 pick on the top 3 this week, and we are going to do Deep Dive number 1. And Deep Dive number 1 is going to be... we kind of touched on it at the end of our top 3 this week. Pirates of the Caribbean. Peter, where is Pirates of the Caribbean?
Where is Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they were like several centuries ago. They went around in ships, primarily between Barbados and the Bahamas and all of those islands. Oh, the ride. Pirates of the Caribbean. Okay, so cherry's going to cost you 50 cents. Apple's going to be $1.50. And lemon meringue is going to be $1.25. Those are the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Thanks for that. Da-da-da-da-da-da. Now on with the show.
Okay. So Pirates of the Caribbean, a classic ride at Magic Kingdom. When you head in and you come up Main Street, USA, going towards the hub. The hub is, of course, called the hub because Magic Kingdom is a hub and spoke. You have different paths heading off in all sorts of different directions. And if you take the leftist of left path, you will find yourself walking into Adventureland, a short walk through Adventureland, and you will come across the Pirates of the Caribbean on the left-hand side. You'll know it because there is a crow's nest with a big old flag hanging from it that says Pirates of the Caribbean in front of a Spanish fort that appears to have a bit of ship damage. And wonderful, wonderful spot, a classic to Magic Kingdom, and I am very excited to talk about all the ins and outs of Pirates of the Caribbean. So, Matt, what would you like to talk about with Pirates of the Caribbean?
Let's talk a little bit of history, because Pirates of the Caribbean actually was not an opening day attraction, and that's something that a lot of people get wrong when that question comes up. It was actually brought into the park much later. Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland was put in first, and Walt didn't think that a Pirates of the Caribbean would work in Florida because, well, it's there, and it was he was building the park as an escape from things. So they decided at the beginning that it wasn't going to be part of the master plan. And then so many people came to Walt Disney World and said, "Where's Pirates of the Caribbean?" that they ended up building it there. So that is kind of the history of Pirates of the Caribbean. It opened in 75, I believe. 3 years. 73? Just a year after?
2 years.
2 years after it opened. Yeah, I was thinking it was like 2 or 3 years after the park actually opened. So great behind the attraction if you ever get on Disney Plus and check those out. Because the way that it's kind of morphed through the years and what it's turned into in Shanghai is absolutely unbelievable. But really, the kind of the idea behind it is you are going to ride a boat through at the time, an idea by Walt Disney. Kind of a Disney story. It was based off of, oh God. It was based off of something. And he kind of molded all of the pirates and everything off of... It was an old show. I know you're looking it up. Why am I blanking? I'm blanking a lot tonight.
It just says that Walt based the ride on pirate legends, folklore, and novels such as those by Italian writer Emilio Salgari. Maybe you're thinking of the There was a TV show, Pirates of the Caribbean. It was oh, never mind. Nope.
Movie was based off of.
Oh, he's looking.
I am, because
Treasure Island? Are you thinking about Treasure Island?
No, I don't.
By Robert Louis Stevenson?
Possibly, but
that would be like a piece of literature that would have created this world in Walt's mind. But that's what I read about Disney's inspiration.
Yeah, it's in the behind the attraction. I know it's in that. So, I will put a little card up in this one because I'm blanking on it, but there was definitely it was a show, but I don't believe it was Treasure Island that it was based off of in the 50s, and that's kind of where the idea came from. But you board boats and you kind of go through these different scenes. Walt Disneyland's is significantly longer than Walt Disney World's ride, mainly because it has to go outside of the park. The show building is outside of what they call the berm around the outside of the park, so you have to take a drop and go up into the show building, and then you go around the show building, and then you come back through, and that kind of stuff. But multiple scenes, so the first scene is kind of like the skeleton scene. Then you have the drop. You get into the fort scene. Then you get into the first town scene, which is kind of like the auction scene. Then you get into the ransack scene. And then you get into the fire scene. And then the last scene is kind of the prison and the treasure room scene. So, basically how it's laid out. It's about 11 minutes at Walt Disney World. So, really good ride. Peter, talk a little bit about the queue and stuff like that. Because it is one of our favorite queues. At Walt Disney World especially. At Magic Kingdom.
Sorry, I was still... Yeah, I was going down a rabbit hole. I was like reading the whole script of that episode of Behind the Attraction, trying to find the quote. Well, why don't you work on that, and I'll because obviously if you see it, you'll go, oh, that's what I was thinking of. So yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about the ride. As Matt said, it is that boat ride. But before that, I mentioned kind of where it was located. You're going to go down that Adventureland area, and just before you start to cross into Frontierland, there's an archway, and just before that on the left is the Pirates of the Caribbean. So right from square one, you are immersed because you start by entering the queue and kind of queuing around on a very, very long wait time through kind of these nice tiles of an outdoor Spanish building. And so you're kind of queuing back and forth, and ultimately you find out that the outdoor of that Spanish building is actually an old Spanish fort. As you head in through the very large wooden doors, you start to find yourself in the gunpowder room. So you have cannons and you have cannonballs and you have the swabbing equipment and all of that other stuff kind of sitting around. What I love about the queue line through most of it is you have like wrought iron poles, and the queue line is actually chain. Like not chain link or anything, like chains, which are just very, very wonderful, kind of like mimicking, what you would find on the anchors of a ship, or chains throughout that kind of era to, bundle and to secure things. You keep going through the fort and you work your way through some various rooms. The fort does get a little bit more stately. There are some nice column works towards the end of the queue line before you ultimately do make it down to the station. So after the sorting area will send you up one way into kind of like an upper fort passway where you have kind of the area where the cannons would go out of the fort and the little wood flaps would pop up. Or if you go down, you kind of go into this little galley area where there's some column work and other stuff like that. During the not so scary party, a lot of times there will be some live pirate actors in this area as well as potentially in the ride. This last year, they were unfortunately not in the ride. There were no actors that day that Matt, Shannon, and I and Jesse went there. Really, really wonderful, though. And that's what Matt and I were talking about in our top 3 segment that went along with this. The ride lines at Disney World are so incredibly immersive. And even though Pirates didn't make it into our list of top 3, it is, before I did my number 1, I rattled off a ton of fantastic ride lines, and Pirates of the Caribbean is, of course, one of those. You immerse yourself in the story from the moment you decide to walk under the wait time little placard and begin waiting in line for the ride. You are immersed in a story. It is a journey. As Matt said, really, really cool out in California, since he brought this up. You actually start boarding your boat and you get launched into get launched into the bayou. And so you're just riding your boat in the bayou because it's located in New Orleans Square at Disneyland. And so you're floating through the bayou, and then all of a sudden you go into an ominous looking cave. And that's when you sort of fall into a fantasy world and get kind of transported. So it's really, really cool. And then you also go on the conveyor belt back up, on the ride, back up to the top, back up out of that fantasy world. Whereas Disney World improved on the design a little bit. You leave the station, you're immediately in the fantasy world. You descend, you do all of those scenes that Matt talked about, and then you get off the boat, and the boat takes the trip up the little conveyor without you. So Disney World, very fun though, that you ride on the conveyor and back around to the station, because it transports you down to the Pirates area and then back up and out back into the New Orleans area. And like Matt said, it's because you literally leave the park to then go into the show building for this ride. Kind of similar idea here. The show building for Pirates of the Caribbean is back, like in the offstage area.
Yeah.
Back behind the ride.
Yeah. So where does this?
Hey, did you find it?
I did not. I'm gonna have to deep dive here. So
played.
you know, one of our tips, and this is something that we've always talked about from the Hey You're Going to Disney series, is one of our top tips for visiting the Magic Kingdom is, if you're going to rope drop, don't rope drop to the right. Everybody's going to be going to Space Mountain. Everybody's going to be going to Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. If you rope drop left, you can get a lot done early in the day. Knock out Jungle Cruise, knock out Pirates, Big Thunder Mountain. You can get
Splash
around
Mountain here shortly.
Yeah, Tiana's Bayou Adventure. You know, all of that.
And you can likely wrap around a Haunted Mansion before ride lines kind of work their way that way.
Exactly. So Pirates endearingly becomes really highly valued for us early in the day. Also, Pirates is a great, when it's hotter than you know what outside and you just need an escape from it, even the open air area of the Pirates queue is cool. So going into that longer queue line and getting into that air conditioning sometimes is a lifesaver at 3 o'clock in June in Florida. So, no, great.
July, August, and September are even worse.
Yeah. But, you know, using that as one of those breaks to just kind of go and rest on some walls and sit on some chains and work your way through that queue is a great way to kind of break up the day and kind of get you going again with a classic ride. Peter, where does this fall on kind of your spectrum of rides in the rankings department at Magic Kingdom?
Oh, this isn't every trip one. Like there are some rides at Magic Kingdom where, we were just there a couple of different times, mostly for Epcot stuff, but obviously we made our way over to Magic Kingdom, and like we didn't ride Big Thunder Mountain at all. We only rode Haunted Mansion one of the trips. We didn't ride Peter Pan or Small World or Little Mermaid at all. So the Pirates isn't every trip type of a thing. Kind of what you said, either early in the morning we'll be like, yeah, let's go ride Pirates, or we're a big fan of like late night Pirates.
Yeah.
So kind of the exact opposite, sitting there going, hey, the fireworks are over. We're not going to go rush against the sea of humanity. We're going to mull around in the park, maybe not all the way to close, but at least for another hour or so, just doing a couple of things. Hey, let's go over and ride Pirates or ride Big Thunder or ride Haunted Mansion. Some things that now here at the end of the night have walk-on lines or quick little lines that we can just go ride some stuff while we let the bus queues dissipate or the monorail queue dissipate, so that when we walk out, we're just mostly walking out and either waiting for the bus that will be here soon or, the next monorail.
Just don't ride Jungle Cruise at night.
You're not wrong. Jungle Cruise is a fantastic ride, but at night you really lose a lot of the scenery. It's still an enjoyable ride. I do enjoy kind of the boat light by lantern approach. So and the lantern does a good job kind of projecting light out onto the scenes. But yeah, you lose a lot of the nuance. You lose a lot of the further back stuff in each of those scenes. As your attention is obviously drawn to the most illuminated things.
Yeah.
So,
Disneyland or Disney World version?
Yeah, so that's okay. So that was actually when I went out to Disneyland for the first time. I started to do a lot of the, ooh, I'm going to compare this. Ooh, I'm going to compare this. Ooh, how do I like this over that? So I started to try and do that with like Pirates and Big Thunder and, the couple other, Splash Mountain and Space Mountain and all those similar things in both places. And it was right around Pirates. So it was about the third of those things that I was going on. And I was like, I got to stop this comparison stuff. I got to appreciate that each attraction, while it has its similarity, has a different enough feel that I'm still glad that I rode it. Pirates, the on fire, kind of the town stuff is pretty similar, but the rest of the ride, the early part of the world versus the early part of the land, the late part of the world versus the late part of the land, much different feel and much different ride. Same thing, Space Mountain and Splash Mountain. It's kind of funny how the Space Mountain is a 2-seater, but it's a single-seater at World. And then the Splash Mountain's a 2-seater, and it was a single-seater at World or at Land. So it was kind of funny about like, oh, so we're just going to pick different ride vehicles, and hey, we did that there, so we'll flip it over here. But all in all, like, I really don't like the business of, well, this one's the best, because there's a Haunted Mansion at basically every park in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And so, there's, as you go around, like, am I really trying to rank my Haunted Mansions? I really like that in Land, some of the like ripped curtains and like the stairway type stuff, and like that's part of the queue heading into the building, and it's very neat. Kind of that portrait hallway. You actually walk that portrait hallway at Land. But like I wouldn't change the World one for anything. Like I very much enjoy it. Same thing like the graveyard at Land. The trees have like eyes similar to Snow White, the Dark Forest in Snow White. And before she goes and falls over to the ground.
We just watched that a couple weeks ago. So
yeah. So I can't answer that question because
I was going to say that was a really long response for you to just kind of cop out and not give us an answer on that, Peter.
Because I don't want to. Like, I want to go to all the Disney parks around the world. I want to go on all the cruise ships. I want to do all these things to experience all that Disney has to offer me. But I don't want to get in the business of, well, that one was the best one of. Like,
yeah, I don't know that you do it as far as you don't want to go on the world one because the land one is so much better. I don't think you do it.
People
as
do that.
I think.
But people do that. I can't even go on that because it's such a trash experience.
It's like, to me, you know, our only experience outside of world is Paris, and Phantom Manor was such a step up from Haunted Mansion. But it doesn't mean that I don't like Haunted Mansion. It's just like, it was such a different experience because of how you came into it. Yeah, you still had a stretching room. Yeah, you still had some of those similar elements. But where you load for Phantom Manor is spectacular. It's absolutely spectacular. Where you load for Haunted Mansion is just kind of a hallway with the doom buggies in it. So
yeah, right after the world's worst shrink down point on a busy day.
So, you know, each ride's got its merits, and I think that's where, you know, we're excited when we go out to land this year is seeing the different merits of the rides. You know, Big Thunder Mountain, it's just flipped. But how does that feel? Because we know what Big Thunder Mountain feels like at World. What's it going to feel like?
But even there's nuanced differences in Big Thunder Mountain that it feels like a completely different experience.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess, ultimately where my point was. I decided very early on as I was visiting my second Disney property in the world, and I hope to make it to all 5 of them, as I've said, but I decided that I'm just seeing another side of Walt's dream.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not going to be in the business of, I will tell you the differences, but I really don't want to have favorites because I want to appreciate that one man with some tenacity and learning his lessons along the way created a mouse. And from all of that, like, we sit here today in 2024 celebrating his legacy 100 years into the company is just so incredibly cool. If you have not seen One Man's Dream in Hollywood Studios, it's kind of in the theater next to that Little Mermaid. If you have not gone and sat through that show, you are missing out on an incredibly informative and enlightening experience.
It's being refurbished right now, but when it comes back.
Right, but it was, I recently saw it for the first time and I was like, this is remarkable.
Yeah.
What a great show. But I mean, I get it. Like, I'm spending so much money per day, I don't have time to go. Like, then you're missing what this is supposed to be about.
Yeah, and that's, I think there's so many little things, and there's so many, you know, Disneyland and Magic Kingdom are great examples of, you're not going to get through those parks in a day. There's just so much going on in those parks that you're not going to get through those parks in a day. But understanding the classics and knowing kind of, Pirates of the Caribbean was the jumping point for audio animatronics. You know, you had the birds in the tiki room. You had the Great Adventures with Mr. Lincoln. But Pirates is where it took it to a whole nother level. And understanding that that's that heritage ride, that's where every other one of these rides kind of comes from that has those audio animatronics, gives you a little bit of perspective on how to appreciate it. So, no. Stick around. We're going to put our ride through of Pirates of the Caribbean on after this, and we'll probably back it up with the ride through of Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland as well as soon as we get it. So if you see this update sometime in like June, that's what we'll be doing. So thank you guys all for watching. Another wonderful show. Peter, thanks for jumping on. We will see you next Tuesday. Bye now. Peter with Princesses and the Mouse, Disney Travel, joined us tonight. We talked Disney news, a top 3, and a Disney deep dive of Pirates of the Caribbean. For us on social media, you can find us in a lot of different places. Easiest is going to be on Facebook at DPI Podcast for the podcast, at PATM Disney Travel for the travel side. If you're looking for some interaction, go over to our Disney Insights on Twitter account or on X, whatever you call it now. We're also on Instagram. Thank you guys all for watching, listening, liking, sharing, everything that you do for the podcast. You guys have a wonderful weekend. We will see you next Tuesday. Bye now.